Hey everybody, Saigan here with another Levy University. We're finally going to do this. We are going to take a look at Jinteki Personal Evolution in Core Set. We're going to take a look at the Jinteki starter that just kind of comes pre-built for you sort of in the Core Set. And we're also going to look at what we can do to fix it. Now, I'm going to go into this saying that Jinteki is easily the weakest and hardest to play in the core set alone. Jinteki being hardest to play doesn't really change. Jinteki is a very difficult corporation to wrap your head around. There's a lot of bluffing involved, and there's a lot of trying to determine what kind of person your opponent is to make any of that bluffing at all worthwhile. If you want to play Jinteki, there are two data packs that I absolutely positively recommend you to pick up first. The first one is Trace Amount out of the Genesis cycle. Trace Amount comes with Fetal AI. Fetal AI is hugely important to the Jinteki mind games. The second data pack that you'll want to pick up, and this actually is a great data pack to pick up for Corporation period, is Opening Moves in the Spin Cycle set of data packs, and that comes with Howard Johnson. Howard Johnson is an automatic 3 of in any corporation deck. Get him, love him, he's amazing. He is so freaking amazing. He makes corporations playable. Like, he evens the playing field. So without any further ado, let's take a look at what comes with the Jinteki starter in the core set. First of all, the identity, Jinteki Personal Evolution, same as the other corps. It's got 45 minimum card, 15 influence points, and the ability is, whenever an agenda is scored or stolen, do a net damage. That net damage threatens the runner's hand. You're probably never going to kill anybody with Jinteki's actual corporate ability of 1 net damage. But you have the possibility of hitting certain cards in the runner's hand that they might want to hold on to. So there's always that fear for the runner, and it forces the runner to spend extra clicks filling up their hand. In agendas, we have 3 copies of Nisei Mark II. This is the Jinteki agenda in the core set. It's 4 to advance it and score it. It is worth 2 points. It's an initiative type agenda. You place 1 agenda counter on Nisei Mark II when you score it. You can spend the hosted agenda counter to end the run. It's a very solid card for Jinteki, and it adds to the bluffing, and it also gives you a way out if the runner miscalculates what they're going to have to spend to get through something. You can use it to really mess up a runner who's just spent a lot of money getting through a ice wall. And you can just, pop the agenda counter and be like, oh, it's a shame you spent all that money getting through this freaking iceberg that I built for you. Be a shame if you had to end the run. So Nisei Mark II is a pretty solid card. I tend to run it in all of my Jinteki decks just because of that little ability that it's got. It really makes the runner have to recalculate things. Although it is easy to forget about. I have lost a game because I've forgotten about the agenda counter on Nisei. We also have 3 copies of Priority Requisition. We've gone over this one before. It's pretty solid if you've got Big Ice, but it's very expensive to score, and it hurts a lot if the runner steals it. And we've also got 3 copies of Private Security Force. It's solid if you have the capacity to tag the runner. That possibility is actually native in Jinteki, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Moving into assets, again, neutral cards, like Melange Mining Corp and Pad Campaign. You've got 2 and 3 of those, each in the deck. We have 3 copies of Project Junebug. This is a ambush asset. It's 0 to res, 0 to trash. You can pay it, well, first of all, it can be advanced. You can pay 1 credit when the runner accesses Project Junebug, and you can do 2 net damage for each advancement token on Project Junebug. Project Junebug is far and away one of the scariest tools that Jinteki has, because it looks like an agenda, since it can be advanced, and it sits there and it mocks the runner. On 1 turn, you can drop the Junebug and you can advance it twice, and now the runner is sitting there looking at this agenda that you can score on their next turn, or it's a Project Junebug that's going to do 4 net damage. It's an amazing card if it's played right. The trick is getting the runner to hit it. And we have Snare. We have 3 copies of Snare. It's 0 to res, 0 to trash. It's another ambush asset, like Project Junebug, except this one also works out of the R&D. If the runner accesses it from R&D, they have to reveal it. If you pay 4 credits when the runner accesses Snare, you can do 3 net damage and give the runner 1 tag. You ignore this effect if the runner accesses Snare from the archives. So this is a really cool thing that you can buffer your hand with, or you can use Howard Jackson to shuffle it back into your R&D if a couple of them have already hit the archives. 3 net damage is nothing to scoff at, and that additional tag makes Private Security Force usable, and it also threatens the runner with the possibility of, like, you know, a Scorched Earth or closed accounts being mixed into the deck, splashed in from the other corporations. Snare's a great card. It's another one that you probably run several of in Jinteki. I usually run at least 2, if not a full 3. We also have Zaibatsu Loyalty. Just 1 copy of it. 0 to res. It is 4 to trash. It's an asset. If the runner is about to expose a card, you may res Zaibatsu Loyalty. With 1 credit or trash it, you can prevent 1 card from being exposed. This is another Mind Games card, and it works really well against things like Infiltration or Borrowed Satellite that the runner might be using to figure out if things are a trap. You can have that Project Junebug down with 2 advancement counters on it. They go to expose it so they can see if they can run it safely, and you're like, oh, nope, sorry, Zaibatsu Loyalty. Prevent that from being exposed. And now the runner is still in this horrible head game of trying to figure out whether or not it's a Junebug or an agenda. The bonus that this is free to res and it's 4 to trash also threatens the runner with the possibility of it being something itself that they might waste a run hitting. You know, if they run it, oh, okay, well, it's a Zaibatsu Loyalty. Well, crap. That doesn't do anything for the corporation's economy, and it is 4 to trash. So, how much is that information worth? Is the runner willing to dip into 4 credits to trash this card? Which 4 credits is typically somewhat expensive. The only problem is that Zaibatsu Loyalty is a bit of a dead draw against runners who are not using exposure cards. Moving into Ice, there are 2 cell portals. It's an interesting one. This is a code gate in Jinteki. It's 5 credits to res. It is 7 strength, so it's pretty rough to break. But what it does is the runner approaches the outermost piece of ice protecting the attacked server, and then you de-res cell portal. Okay, spending 5 credits to have to de-res on ice is very, very frustrating sometimes. But Cell Portal is really, really strong, provided you've built up a significant iceberg. Having the runner, slam into that Cell Portal last thing and then have to start their run over, holy crap, that's got to be frustrating. It's an interesting piece of ice. We'll come back to it. I don't know if we're going to leave it in the deck. We also have 2 copies of Chum. I do like Chum. It's a code gate that's only 1 to res, and it is 4 strength. And this is kind of Jinteki's thing with ice, is they get high strength ice sometimes, but it does weird things. And what Chum does is it's got a subroutine that the next piece of ice the runner encounters during this run has +2 strength. Do 3 net damage unless the runner breaks all subroutines on that piece of ice. It's fun. You have to set it up right. The same goes with Cell Portal. You have to be very, very careful about how you are setting up your, ice fortresses, protecting your servers. But if you can chum into something nasty, that can win a game right there on its own. 2 copies of Data Mine. This is actually something that is very easily chummed because this is a trap type ice. You need an AI icebreaker to break traps. There's a couple of things that can break APs, but they're not really commonly played. So Data Mine is typically going to get to do what it wants to do. It's free to res, it is 2 strength, and it has a single subroutine that does 1 net damage, and then you trash Data Mine. If you chum Data Mine, you're now looking at 3 net damage from the chum, and then one net damage from the Data Mine. That's 4 net damage. If the runner is, preparing to run on something that might be a Project Junebug or might even be a fetal AI, they're going to have to end the run after the encounter with Data Mine because the majority of their hand has just been wiped out. I think it's a great card, works great with Chum, and it's actually pretty easy to play with. We have 3 copies of Enigma, which we've spoken about before. I won't spend too much time on these neutral cards that we've seen. 2 copies of Hunter. That's another one that we've seen before. Hunter is kind of nice because it can give the runner a tag. You're running Private Security Force anyways. Having both the Hunter and the snares give you a possibility of actually getting to use that Private Security Force in what is already a damage-heavy deck. So it might actually, we might leave that one in. 3 copies of Neural Katana. Neural Katana is 4 to res. It's got 3 strength. It is a sentry type ice, and it has a single subroutine. Do 3 net damage. It's one of those things that can force a runner to either spend the money to get past that damage, or it puts them in a position where they need to jack out in case they're running on something potentially dangerous, which everything in Jinteki is dangerous. So Neural Katana, solid card. I like it. Got 3 walls of static. Nothing special here. 3 walls of thorns. This is probably the biggest ice that Jinteki has. It's definitely the biggest ice that they have in core. 8 to res it, barrier AP, 5 strength. It's got 2 subroutines, do 2 net damage, and end the run. It ain't bad. I like it. And it's one of those things that goes really well after a chum. Moving into operations, we have 3 copies of Hedge Fund. I tend to run 3 copies automatically of Hedge Fund in every single corporation deck, because getting a first-turn Hedge Fund is just magical. And even still, if you can maintain 5 credits through the game, which you'll probably want to, just to threaten the runner with, possibilities, then you'll always be able to play Hedge Funds that you draw. Have 2 copies of Neural EMP. Neural EMP is, it doesn't seem scary, but when the runner is trying to cut things close against Jinteki, which they have to in order to run efficiently, and, often, very often they're going to be left with less than optimal amount of cards in their hand. So Neural EMP can do some work. It's an Operation Grey Ops, 2 credits to play it. You can only do it if the runner made a run during his or her last turn, which the runner should be running. You will probably have an opportunity to play Neural EMP, and it does 1 net damage. You use this to poke at the runner who has not been careful. And admittedly, Neural EMP has cost me a couple of games when playing as runner. Precognition. Got 2 copies of Precognition. It's an operation, 0 credits to play. Look at the top 5 cards of R&D and arrange them in any order. This is a fantastic card for Corp, especially Jinteki. You can adjust your R&D, and you can float snares to the top. You can float just operations that you don't care about the runner seeing to the top. It makes running R&D so much less safe for the runner. And again, it puts them in this horrible position of trying to guess at what Jinteki has just done. Did they put agendas at the top so that they can draw them and get them out of an exposed R&D? Or did they load up the top of R&D with snares? This is especially scary if you're running R&D interface or Maker's Eye. Now you really, really, really have to triple guess whether or not you want to run R&D. Another fantastic card. We'll probably leave it in. And for our last card, we have one upgrade, Akitaro Watanabe. We only have one copy of him, and it's a shame because he's pretty solid. He is 1 credit to res, and he is 3 to trash. The res cost of ice protecting this server is lowered by 2. Hey, he's pretty solid. You can use him for building up that iceberg on whatever server you really feel the need to be super protective of. All right, so that's everything in the recommended core starter pack for Jinteki. We're going to take a quick break here, and then we are going to come back, and I will talk about my changes and why I made them. Hey everybody, welcome back. Let's take a look at the changes that I have made to the Jinteki core starter set, and I'm actually kind of pleased with this. I didn't think that it was going to go this well, but I think that this deck could be fairly playable. It's still missing the obvious Jinteki tools like Fetal AI, and it's definitely missing Howard Jackson. Those two alone would make this deck much, much more competitive, but for what we have, I'm pretty pleased. The way I went about building this deck was first I added in the things that I felt might fix some of Jinteki's major problems. And Jinteki's worst problem in core set is horrible economy. So first things first, 3 Beanstalk royalties. It's a free 3 credits. Well, it's not free. It's 3 credits for 1 click. It's good. It's something that you can precog to the top of your deck that the runner can't trash, so they won't be able to access anything behind it on a second run. It's a solid card, and I think it works well in here. I think it works well in most of the core set possibilities. We also added in 2 closed accounts. Closed accounts is really cheap to splash in. It does a lot of work for you. And we already have Snare as a way to build in some tag threats. Now, something that a lot of runners aren't probably going to worry about against Jinteki, especially in core, is the possibility of tag punishment. Just because it's really expensive to get done, Scorched Earth is expensive to splash in, and it's just not something that you're going to see with a lot of likelihood. That's something that you typically see in NBN and Wayland is tag punishment. So in Jinteki, the tags are just kind of there, and it lets you blow up a resource. They're not as threatening as they normally would seem to be. However, we're going to try and capitalize on them because those tools are there, and we already have that built into the deck, and Private Security Force can, in fact, win games if it's set up correctly. So on top of those closed accounts, I'm doing it. I'm putting in a single copy of Scorched Earth. This is not meant to be a game winner. This is meant to be a surprise. This is meant to be something that the runner might happen to see if they're hitting your R&D. They'll see Scorched Earth, and now immediately they are playing an entirely different game. Running Jinteki and taking that possible net damage from stealing something or from hitting a June bug, Scorched Earth is now just that much more terrifying, and they have to be way more careful now. If you happen to have an opportunity to hit them with a Scorched Earth and win the game, by all means, do it. But remember, it is not the focus of this deck. It is just there to scare the runner and to give you some added possibility. Same goes for closed accounts. It can mess with the runner, even though they're not actually going to be spending too terribly much money running on you. It can still hurt them, and we do still have some ice that they're going to have to work their way past. With closed accounts and Scorched Earth being in here, I also felt it would be useful to add in 3 Data Ravens. Jinteki is very, very weak with the ice that they have in core set, and Data Raven is an amazing piece of ice because it pretty much guarantees that the runner is going to wind up getting a tag if they want to run that. Data Raven is absolutely perfect on your R&D, especially. It's pretty good on HQ, and you can do some stuff with it on the remote servers, but it's a little bit trickier with Jinteki because we kind of want to tease the runner into running our remote servers and make them think that, it might be worth going after when it could be a Junebug. Of course, we could also protect Junebug with Data Raven. It depends on who you're playing against and what their habits are. Regardless, Data Raven is a really solid card in this deck, I feel. It works well with the Private Security Force, which you'll probably score 1 during the course of the game if you're able to score any agendas. And, having it in here just makes those closed accounts and Scorched Earths that much more of a possibility. So those are the cards that we added in for a total of 9 new cards. Well, now we have to take out 9 cards. So let's look at what does the least for us in Jinteki, keeping in mind that Jinteki has really poor economy and we cannot afford expensive toys. So the first thing that I took out, Wall of Thorns. Yeah, it does 2 net damage. Yeah, it ends the run, but man, 8 credits to res something that the runner can probably break. If we were playing with some future pieces of ice, we could do like Jinteki Big Ice. The possibility is there. But on its own, with the core set tools, I don't feel that Wall of Thorns holds up well enough, at least not with what I'm trying to do with this deck. We probably could have gone for something like a Jinteki Big Ice and just put in a bunch of HB cards, but, we'd still be lacking that economy. I also took out 2 copies of Cell Portal. We're not going to be running a lot of ice. It's expensive to use, and the fact that it de-reses every time is really frustrating. Plus, it's best used on a server that has a lot of ice. Running a lot of ice on a single server is also really hard on your economy. We have to go for efficiency here. The goal here is not to prevent the runner from getting in. The goal here is to make the runner not want to go in. We want to keep them running scared. I also took out 3 copies of Enigma. I just don't feel it does enough in this deck. It's really easy to get past. It doesn't punish the runner for moving past it like Data Raven does. So, yeah, Enigma can come out because Data Raven is going in. I think Data Raven's just better at the job. And we also took out 1 Wall of Static. It's cheap. It ends the run. It's pretty solid in the early game, but once the runner gets set up on, turn somewhere between turn 2 and turn 4, they're going to be able to get past a Wall of Static without much problem, unless their deck is really fighting on them. But we need to assume that their deck is working correctly. If their deck is working correctly, Wall of Static doesn't do hardly anything except cost us 3 credits. So that's it. Those are my changes. I will keep the deck list below. Thanks for watching, everybody. Sorry it took me so long to get this Jinteki video done. If you have a request for another core set identity that you'd like me to try and build a deck out of, something that could be possibly competitive, please let me know in the comments below. I'm also going to start doing more regular videos regarding drafting with simulated draft packs. So, thanks for watching, everybody. This was another episode of Levy University. I'm your host, Saigan. I will see you guys next time.